So one of my favorite things to do is watch like B-roll videos that you guys make, whether you send them through or I just stumble across them, maybe you tag me in one of them. But there's a couple of things that I see in a lot of them that are kind of ruining them. They're bringing the standard down by a lot. And there's some really simple changes that you guys can do to make sure that you are not doing these 7 common mistakes. It's harder than you think, and the last one, the 7th one, is something that I'm actually really guilty of myself too. I find myself doing it all the time, even though I know what I'm not supposed to be doing. For some reason, I just keep doing it. Today's video is sponsored by Stellar Photo Recovery. They are a photo recovery software, and I'm going to tell you guys a really funny story about that in a little bit. Okay, the first one I want to say is not filming in sequences and rather filming in singular shots. The problem with this is that you can often end up with like a bunch of random different shots that don't really cut together with one another or make that much sense or flow in your edit. If you guys start to film in actual sequences, even if it's very simple, like a wide, medium, and a close-up of the same scene, when you guys are putting your edit together, it's way easier to start cutting those in a nice flow. Things kind of unfold a little bit and it makes a lot more sense. I could be skating down this road, and instead of just having like one shot of me skating and then one shot of like something else like a scenery or some trees, I can have 2 or 3 shots of me skating and maybe like getting through somewhere and then showing those trees in the area that I'm skating in, and now all of a sudden I have a bit of a sequence that's going to unfold, and it's going to make the little B-roll section much more interesting to the person that you're watching, and also make your job easier when you're cutting those clips together. So film in sequences, not singular shots. I'm having so much fun shooting in like a completely new location. For those of you that don't know, I'm in a completely different place. I'm not in Bali anymore. I'm actually in Austria right now, and it makes it really fun to just go out and shoot videos. Everything's new, fresh perspective, makes everything really, really fresh and interesting. So it's fun to shoot these little videos out here. I'm hoping you guys are enjoying them. Let's talk about the second thing, because this is one of my favorites and one of the most important things when it actually comes to shooting little B-roll sections. And this one is going to be the direction of movement in your frame. So if you saw for the opening scene of this little video where I was on the skateboard, you can see that I made sure that I was going in the same direction for each one of the different clips. Even though they were in different locations and areas, it's still really important because it gives that feeling of traveling somewhere. And if I was to throw in a clip that was going the other direction, it wouldn't really fit. It would feel like I'm all of a sudden going back to where I came from. And you can see that even with this one, when I come out the door, if I was to have that and then show me go outside and like cruise around somewhere and then show that one of me coming back to the door, it really creates that feeling of me like returning back where I came from. You can make sure to just be putting your subject and the direction of movement, if they are traveling somewhere, to all be flowing in that same direction. And this doesn't mean that you can't have like a forward angle or a back angle, but you just shouldn't have the subject moving in the complete opposite direction across your frame unless you are doing that intentionally to create the feeling of them actually going in the opposite direction. Way too much fun. Let's keep making the video, get to these tips. Okay, the next thing, this is bright. Not capturing enough environmental shots. And this is if you guys are filming something specific, maybe it's in one location, maybe for example, how I was getting a couple shots at this skate park right here. It's important not to only get shots of the actual action thing that you're filming, of me skateboarding or doing something in that specific location. It's really important that you guys also get some shots of the environment to show what that place actually feels like to the viewer. It's important to remember the viewer can only see what you guys are showing them. And if you're only showing them the specific action that you guys are filming, they're not gonna have an accurate idea of what's actually going on in that scene to make it feel the way that it feels to actually be there. You can see even with something as simple as this little skating thing, I can get a couple of shots, even if it's just in a wider establishing shot of that skate park to show how it is, and then I can get a couple of other little details of things that I feel like really add to that place and the feeling that it creates when you're there. Maybe some close-ups of like the graffiti on the ramps, whatever it is in your guys' specific scene that makes it kind of like have the feeling that it does. Remember to catch environmental shots, even if they're just a couple of wide establishing shots and 1 or 2 detail shots of critical things, and add those into your edits. It makes it way more dynamic. So filming little B-roll sections can easily be like kind of overwhelming at times. If you're in a busy location, something with a lot going on, you're not always sure what you should be shooting, and what can often happen is that you just end up shooting way too much footage. It becomes a nightmare to go through and pick out the good parts, but it also sometimes ends up being that you didn't quite capture the things that you should have caught. And this is where planning is so important. Now, I don't think that it's plausible to plan out shot for shot of what you want or write it down something like crazy like that, but I do think it's really helpful if you just have a rough idea of the little scene that you want to film. Maybe I want to capture something of this little bridge right here, this kind of river. Super simple, nothing crazy, but just before I start shooting, I'm gonna think of a few things that I want. I want to show the river, I want to show the bridge. I think there's a tram that comes across the top of the bridge, so that could definitely be a cool shot that I want to get. And now at least with just those 3 simple things, I have an idea of how my B-roll scene will kind of like piece itself together, and I can make sure to capture those things how I want them. That's a cool shot of the bridge right there. I can show the whole bridge. I can get one shot of the river and all the water flowing. Maybe I'll get a close-up of that as well. And then I can head up onto the top of the bridge, get a shot of the tram going past, and also one shot of the river from on top of the bridge, just to show another kind of perspective of the scene that we're trying to capture. Laying out a very rough plan like that is going to make such a difference to streamline your whole workflow when you get back to the edit as well, because all of a sudden now you know exactly what the clips are that you have. You've already envisioned the kind of little scene in your head, and you can very quickly just piece them together and make sure that your scene unfolds the way that you want it. Just feeling like the Casey Neistat of Austria, or Vienna out here, cruising around the city with the vlogging setup, skating around, filming like city things. Super fun. It's really fun being a tourist in a new area. But I wanted to tell you guys a funny little story about, I was shooting a very important event, and when I swapped out my SD cards because it was full, when I checked the one that I had filled, it was completely full. All of the footage was completely corrupt and I couldn't access any of it. If this has ever happened to any of you guys, you know it's like one of the most stressful things that can possibly happen to you. I was freaking out, there was nothing I could do. I put the other SD card in and kept shooting the event and just hoped and prayed that I could do something to get the footage back somehow. The sponsor of today's video is Stellar Data Recovery, and basically what they do is it's a software that allows you to recover any sort of data that you guys might have lost, whether that's something that you've deleted off of your SD card, maybe it's one of your precious SSD hard drives and now that whole drive has been corrupt or it's been hidden. Having the Stellar Data Recovery software allows you to recover all of that data and make sure that you can get it back. It works on Windows and it works on Mac. They have some amazing little plans, and if you guys want to find out anything more, I'm going to leave them linked in the top of the description, because as photographers and videographers, we are probably the people in the world that data is most important to. Having this can be a lifesaver in a lot of situations, and I know from me personally, in that situation where I lost all of that footage for the really important event, I managed to get it all back with data recovery software, but without software like Stellar Data Recovery, I wouldn't have been able to recover that. They can't redo the event just for the video content. So having something like that was literally a lifesaver in that scenario. If you guys want to find out anything more, check it out. It's in the top of the description, and having something like that will save your life if you're a photographer or videographer. So go and check them out. Amazing software company. So I'm super lucky when it comes to locations. I know you guys have seen that, I'm sure, and a lot of you even comment on it saying how lucky I am to have access to all of these amazing locations that I do to film my B-roll videos. But there's something that I've seen a common thread among beginners, and that is just not putting enough effort into finding nice locations. I know it's completely understandable that not everybody can have like a paradise beach or a crazy mountain, but you can make sure that you are finding the best locations that are available to you wherever you might be. If you are wanting to make a fun video, a B-roll section, maybe the empty field or park that's just like a flat piece of grass is not going to be the best option for you. It's going to make it more challenging. And if you put more effort, maybe you have to travel further, maybe you have to climb a mountain, maybe you just have to go that little extra step to find a location that is going to make all the difference at the end of the day. Because if you guys have a grand location, or at least as best as you can, pointing your camera at things is going to almost instantly look cool. If you have a very plain scenario or setting, you're gonna have to work a lot harder to make your shots interesting, to make them look visually pleasing, than if you had a location that was just like really nice to look at. You don't have to work so hard. You can pretty much whip your camera out, point it at something cool, and it looks really, really nice. And you can see for this one, this isn't some like crazy location. It is really beautiful, but it's not something that's like out of this world that no one really has access to. So you guys should try that as well and see what you can come up with and just put the most effort into your locations. Let's get to that last tip, the one that I am most guilty of myself. I really struggle with this one. So let's see how many of you guys are doing the same thing. Okay, been saving this one for last, and I'm sorry to tell you, but even when you guys know this tip, you're probably gonna end up being like me and still struggle with it and not be able to quite nail it. And this tip is gonna be, you shoot at locations too soon. You don't give yourself a chance to kind of do like a bit of a reconnaissance mission in that specific location to find out where the best place is actually to shoot. Maybe you arrive somewhere new, you don't know where you are, and you immediately see something that's quite cool, you start shooting, you film the majority of your video there, only to walk just around the corner and see a way better location and somewhere that you could have filmed your video way nicer. Even knowing it, I try my best to like scope out the area, but I think sometimes I just get too excited and immediately start shooting something only to realize that I was in the part of that location that is not nearly as cool as the one that was right in front of me. My recommendation for this is when you do get to a location and you find an area that you want to shoot, just walk around, see if there's anything else around there. Maybe there's a crazy viewpoint just through the trees around the corner. Maybe just around that corner there's like a big open forest part with like some crazy rock features, whatever it might be. But just scope it out before you start shooting. Don't be too fast to shoot your entire section, which is what I do all of the time. Let's see if you guys are any better than this. Comment down below if you think that this has happened to you before, if you've noticed this happening to you guys when you are shooting, because I feel like it's a pretty common one. Other than that, let me know down in the comments as well if you guys have been guilty of doing a lot of these things. I know I certainly have been and still am sometimes, so don't feel bad about it if you are doing all of these things. Other than that, remember to check out Stellar Data Recovery. They're going to be linked in the top of the description. They are inevitably going to be life-saving software sooner or later. It's an unfortunate reality of being a digital creator these days. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.